And those very blackouts have become a staple in our daily lives, as you've seen and experienced over the last while. But it's expensive for business and companies trying to stay afloat. But for informal traders who operate on the streets, it's often dangerous too. A new study has revealed that informal traders are frequently preyed upon during the power cuts. The study was conducted by market research group Yazi, who surveyed traders from every province in the country. For more on the study's findings, we're joined by Timothy Treagus, who's the founder and the CEO of Yazi. Thank you very much for your time this evening, Timothy. And maybe let's start with the overall important findings of this particular survey or report that informal traders have to grapple with when we are being load shed or there are power cuts instituted.
Yes, good evening. So I think just some context about this report. Yazi is a market research company that uses WhatsApp to survey people, and WhatsApp is one of the highest, it's the app with the highest penetration in South Africa. So 95% of mobile users have WhatsApp, which enables us to reach a population of people that are otherwise quite hard to access digitally. So it means that a lot of our survey participants would only previously have been able to be accessed with in-field or on-the-ground researchers. And how we operate is we reward our survey participants for sharing their opinions, and I constantly communicate with them to understand their pains and gains, and also just get feedback of how much they're enjoying our platform. And a lot of the feedback I started to get was about crime, about safety, and feeling of being in the hospital at arbitrary times of the night, and them saying, but it's because of load shedding. I was having people tell me that they had no water or they had no connectivity, so they couldn't do any work. And I started to feel confused because the narrative in the media and obviously a lot of what's covered is speaking about UPSs and do you have power and do you have battery, but all of these extra factors was things I'd never considered. And so we decided to do a report on investigation into the informal economy and to really understand what's going on, and to get a better picture and the opinions and perspectives from the people in sort of more rural South Africa as to how load shedding is affecting them in ways that often the mainstream media isn't actually aware of or covering. And so that's what we set out to do.
And that's very interesting because some of the highlights of the report show that mental health concerns has become a thing amongst informal traders as well, and the high data costs. We do know that a lot of the cities do have free Wi-Fi provided by local authorities, and when there's power cuts, they don't have access to that. So those are some of the other components that were highlighted in that this is what they're suffering from.
Yes, exactly. And I think that was the thread that really started to come through, was this apparent lack of hope, and how people were really starting to feel all of these knock-on effects, ranging from, so my business is gone down, and that's maybe one thing, but now I can't put food on the table for my family. I'm making my kid have a cold shower or a cold bath, and they're complaining. I can't get them to school because the transport's messed up. And I mean, one of probably the worst story or the worst response that came through, which was just really drastic and sad, was one individual said that their family member was in an accident and would have been able to have survived if an ambulance had been able to pick her up in time and take her to hospital. But because she could not phone the ambulance because there was no connectivity, the person ended up dying. And so, you presented with information where you wouldn't really be able to draw that link together without actually getting the perspective of individuals. And so, people are really sad and negatively impacted emotionally and mentally.
Mm-hmm. Now, one watching the interview would think, well, what exactly do they need the electricity for if they're just selling some homemade products or some fruit and vegetables? So just to give us that context, how many or how much of a percentage of those that you surveyed are heavily reliant on the provision of electricity in the stations that they sell at?
I think everyone in some sort of supply chain-like way. So if it's a person selling clothes, their stock or their product is, them basically producing a dress or making a t-shirt, and they're not able to do that. When someone's buying on the street and selling, making food for people, their meat's going off and it's rotting, and now they obviously spending double on food and not really knowing if they can actually continue to buy meat, because every time they buy it, it's going rotten. And then a lot of just also like people losing out on interviews, people losing out on deals because they can't, they've either their phone's dead or they don't have connectivity to connect with other, in a business like way, on even if it's just on WhatsApp. And so I think just generally we do have quite a significant portion of business owners, small business owners in our database, and every single one of them just, kind of almost poured out their heart in this one question where we asked how load shedding had negatively impacted them. And it's from the phone to the sewing machine to the fridge, to the transport, to things being stolen, even cable theft, and somehow having a knock-on effect on their business. So I think that already came through. And just in terms of what people are saying, 81% said there's been an increase in crime. 90% of people said that if things carry on going the way they're going, there's going to be a national uprising, kind of what happened in KZN, but on steroids. So there's going to be looting and rioting. So I think people are really at a point now where...
Yeah, that's very, very concerning, Timothy. And with that, did they say something needs to be done? What do these participants of this survey say needs to be done as a matter of urgency, so that we don't get that violent unrest that we saw in KZN on steroids, as you've indicated?
Yeah, I think there's obviously the lack of power that's evident, and that can be solved, but probably the step that government can take, or the sort of the lowest hanging fruit, is around safety, and even just providing a sense of security in these regions where people are fearful that they are going to be, they're fearful for their lives, and that's the cable theft, and it's also then houses around them being looted, and so I think it probably, from an emotional and a mental point of view, that would be a point where maybe government could intervene in actually providing security and support, or systems that enable security systems to still work when there is no electricity, and I think that a good starting point there.
Thank you very much, Timothy Treagus, for joining us. This evening on South Africa Tonight. Just breaking down the dire implications for small business or informal traders in the different cities across the country, the impact of power cuts on their livelihoods.